Hello, guys. Back with another election prediction. This time we have the 2024 Democratic primary Joe Biden versus Bernie Sanders, a one on one scenario. So, this is unlikely. Bernie already said he wouldn't run against Joe Biden, but this is just purely a hypothetical. What would happen if they were to run against each other? Okay, so the Democratic primary calendar is South Carolina first, New Hampshire, Nevada on the same day, and the next. And then it's Georgia and Michigan. I'm pretty sure Georgia is fourth and Michigan's fifth. So let's start off with the first state, South Carolina. Bernie would only do slightly better than he did before. He would probably get like 16 delegates instead of 15, but Biden would still win here by a very large amount because, again, Bernie doesn't do well with African American voters. Okay, in the state of New Hampshire, Bernie would straight up win it. I think he would be pretty well positioned to win that state. He's pretty popular in that state. Biden never did really well in the primary there anyway. In Nevada, I also think Bernie would narrowly edge out Biden here too. So starting off with two victories to Biden's one. However, Georgia and Michigan are right up next. Georgia, Biden would win overwhelmingly, just like South Carolina. Again, Bernie wouldn't really do that well in a southern state, especially with a huge African American population. In Michigan, I just think Biden would still get a pretty narrow victory against Bernie, but Bernie would do a bit better than expected. But still, Biden's an incumbent president. He still has that advantage over Sanders. And now we're heading to Super Tuesday. So Bernie would win probably like 75% of the vote in a state like Vermont. Biden would still get 25%. He's still incumbent. In Massachusetts, I think this is one of the states that Biden's vulnerable in. I think Bernie would be able to narrowly edge him out here, but it'd be pretty close. Biden did win the state last time, but I think Bernie would be able to win if it's just a one-on-one contest because of Warren was splitting the vote with Sanders. In Maine, again, it was purely because Warren was splitting the vote with Sanders. One-on-one, Bernie would win the state. Now we're here with the deluge of southern states, and this is where Bernie just starts to lose. But Tennessee, Bernie would probably get only like 29% of the vote. Alabama, he would get destroyed, and he'd be lucky to get like 17%. I think he'd only get barely over that 15% line, just like last time. Arkansas, only around 29%. North Carolina, it's a little bit more wider than usual in the primaries. So again, Bernie wouldn't do as terrible here. He would do actually relatively decent for a southern state, getting 38% of the vote. Virginia, he would only get 33%. Oklahoma, he would actually do pretty well here. You get around 40% of the vote, but Biden would still win the state by 59. Texas, Bernie would do well with the Latino votes, but still, Biden gets a pretty narrow victory against Sanders in the state of Texas. In Minnesota, again, the incumbency advantage will just give him a victory over Sanders. Colorado, it's one of Sanders' stronger states. I think he would perform pretty well in Colorado. Same with Utah. Utah Democratic Party, or the Utah Democrats here, are relatively very young and white, which Bernie does very well with those voters. In the state of California, I think this is one of the states Bernie needs to win by a big amount, and I do think he would win it by a pretty big amount, probably around 17-point victory against Biden, because Biden's approval rating, it's not super good in California because a lot of California Dems want to be more liberal. Democrats abroad, again, this usually trends a bit more progressive, so Sanders would also win that primary. So Sanders is only a little bit of delegates behind, but these, so far, most of the states that have voted are his best states. Okay, we'll start off with the next few states. I'm pretty sure it's Mississippi next, and Bernie would only barely qualify for delegates here. Missouri, he would only get like, I'll give him like 41%. Biden would still win there. Iowa, Bernie would actually get a narrow victory here against Biden. Biden doesn't have the best approval rating, and Iowa is vulnerable. Same with North Dakota, they still have caucuses. Idaho's primary, it could go either way, but I think Bernie would actually win it this time. Again, a lot of Warren voters voted like early, and that really hurt him there in splitting the vote. Same thing happened in Washington. I think Bernie would get a narrow victory over him there. The northern Marinara Islands, Bernie would also get a victory. He won there last time in the primary. Okay, the next states, Florida, Ohio, Illinois, and Arizona. Florida, Bernie would get crushed in. He would only get like 28% of the vote. Ohio would do a lot better in, but again, Biden is the incumbent president. He'll do very well in that state. Illinois, Bernie would definitely do the best in this primary out of all of them. Arizona, it's a really more of a moderate state, so Bernie would only get like 41% of the vote. But there is a decent Latino population there, so I'll bump him up a bit. I do think he would do a bit better there. So that's the state he does the best in, not Illinois or Ohio. And let me try to remember the order. It's Wyoming, then Wisconsin, Hawaii, Alaska. Wyoming, it's a lot more moderate Democrats here, so I really don't think Bernie has a chance at winning there. Wisconsin, at this point, I think Biden would have the momentum, and I really don't think Bernie would win. Hawaii, Bernie would actually get a victory. If he was still running, he would have won this state. Alaska, I think he would narrowly win here. Alaskan Democrats usually tend to be a bit more progressive, so I think Ashley, no, I think Biden would actually get the narrow victory because, again, they did elect Mary Patola for that primary. And she's more a moderate Democrat, so I think Biden would actually have the narrow edge over Sanders in that state. Okay, and by this point, Bernie would have probably dropped out. We're just going to do the hypothetical that he still runs anyway. So Bernie, again, he probably wouldn't win Kansas, but he would do well there. Nebraska, he wouldn't win, but he would get around 40% of the vote. South Dakota, Biden would win it, probably like 56 to 40. He would also win Montana. Louisiana would also go to Biden overwhelmingly. Again, it's a very African-American state. American Samoa, easily going to Biden. It's a very rich territory. Guam, I also think, would narrowly go to Biden. Same with the Virgin Islands. Puerto Rico, at this point, even though Bernie does well with the Latino vote, I think it would just be a low turnout primary. Indiana, again, you would have Pete Buttigieg's support, so I don't think Bernie would do the best there. Kentucky, he would do pretty decent. It's still a loss. West Virginia, they like more moderate Democrats. Manchin would totally endorse Biden in this scenario. New Mexico, again, the support among Latino voters, I could see him getting a narrow victory against Joe Biden. Oregon, also a super narrow victory against him. D.C., Bernie would do terrible in. It's a lot of more establishment Democrats. Maryland, Biden would do extremely well in. Delaware, his home state, he would crush Bernie here by a lot. New Jersey, it's a very establishment Dem state, so I think Biden has a very large advantage there. Connecticut, this is one state that Bernie would do relatively decent in. Rhode Island, he'd be a bit behind Biden still, and New York would largely go to Biden. Same with Pennsylvania. So that's the 2024 Democratic primary if Bernie Sanders were to run against Joe Biden. So I'll see you guys in the next video.